Didn't say anything to me either.
They didn't say nothing to Sinead.
Nah, she don't be around. Like they don't even have. Yeah, they don't have contact with her.
That's what I'm saying. That's exactly what I'm saying.
Hey guys, so we don't have the usual intro that we had last time, so the music cuts out. Just like
Cool.
When the music cuts out.
She has an eye full of finer things. I'm loving your wings, girl, they flatter me. I know you've seen her in the magazines. Your eyes, you might hate, but it's flattering, girl. You by yourself.
What's going on, y'all? Welcome to the BoomBapTricks. WeAreDenver, All Real Radio. We in here, 5280 Entertainment. We got Fat Track on the mix tonight. We got Miss LaRae Martinez on the left right here looking through her Facebook page.
Happy Sunday.
Yeah, we got my man Anthony Armstrong up in the house.
What's going on? I'm just telling you right now, I'm sick of y'all motherfuckers already. At the beginning of the show.
He still ain't got his nudes and he's upset about it, yo.
Man, fuck them news. I'm just tired of people in general. Bro. Just tired of people, man.
So it's been an action-packed week. You know, there's a lot of things that have happened within this week. We've had young man who got harassed by the cop who turned out not to be a cop. Here in Denver, we had a great comedy show that has a little bit of controversy going on Facebook, which is why LaRae's looking through the comments right now. And, you know, we got a lot of events that happened this weekend as well. Great art shows. I believe, Anthony, you performed at Meet in the Streets.
I didn't perform. I was there. I was helping out.
Okay.
I was a hired hand.
He was a hired hand present in Meet in the Streets, but that was a great event that actually happened. Actually, every Saturday, they have Meet in the Streets going down. So if you are downtown in 16th Street Mall, do yourself a favor and go check out Meet in the Streets because they have some great performers, great artists who are down there. But it's been an action-packed week. A lot of things happening. Trump. Right, Trump went in, talked about the transgender and military, and
then he told the police they need to be, you know what I'm saying?
Ooh,
have
did
more
you hear
force.
what he said He said, make sure that when you put their heads in, that you hit it a little bit. You know, don't block it or anything. So we got Trump, we got our president talking some crazy shit right now.
President and everybody else that runs the country are a bunch of bitches. That's the problem. These are motherfuckers that they're self-conscious, but they've gotten to a position of power so they can be real big bitches. That's all it is.
Real big bitches.
That's all. They're just big bitches. That's it. That's what's wrong. You can't let a man that's self-confident that's not self-confident get into a position of power like that. You can't do it. It's gonna be all fucked up.
I think that you know, thinking about the comedy show, thinking about the cop that happened with Houston with the young kid, and he ended up being an impersonator, not a real cop, and everything that Trump's saying, I feel like the country is definitely at a climate right now politically. And everything that's happening. We're coming out of the Obama era, right? We're coming out of this PC era where everybody's politically correct. We have all these movements. We have the feminist movement. We have the Black Lives Matter movement. We have the indigenous movement. Everybody's movement is the most important, and nobody is like figuring out how to connect themselves.
Because everybody has these individual movements. Instead of trying to link up and say, okay, what can we do as a group to get our voice heard? But fuck the movements too. Fuck people. That's the thing for the day for me, man.
That's where Anthony's
I'm
at
so
today.
tired of people, man.
I feel you, bro.
I'm so tired of people, man. Just talking to people. You ever talk to a person and you say something and it just makes all the sense in the world to you, and they just look at you like, what? Don't that make you just want to just slap the shit out of them, man?
They give you the side dog look.
Jesus Christ, man. I was talking to this girl last night, and she was telling me about a homegirl. Now, from all indications, her homegirl is out there bogus. You know what I'm saying? Bogus. And I'm sitting up there listening to her, and I'm like, Joe, I think the girl out there. No, she's not out there. It's just blah, 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 blah. She got like 5 kids by like 4 different dudes and just been, you know what I'm saying, mess with this dude for money, this dude, marry men, this, that. I'm like, Joe, she out there. Well, no, you just don't understand. I'm like, I understand clearly what you're telling me. She out there. I'm like, why are you making excuses for her? I'm like, as long as you make excuses for her and don't tell her you out there, you need to get your shit together, she gonna continually do that shit. You know? I'm like, you need to make people face their own reality. You know, people like to live in la la land, and they like to do stuff, and then they like to play victim. When you made those decisions, you can, no matter what happens to you, there's only small occasions to where something happens to you and you have no bearing on it whatsoever. You know, a lot of times whenever something happens to you, you can always fad it back to a decision you initially made to do some bullshit, and then you just end up there.
That's a good segue to like actually think about where we at right now. I feel like, especially in the activist world, we have like this tendency to complain, and have no action necessarily. You know, it's one thing to be out in the streets and protesting, which I think is necessary. Don't get me twisted on that, but you can't be fighting against your people. And I feel like the comedy show is kind of a perfect example of that. You took the initiative to go ahead and put together a stellar lineup. Didn't label the lineup, didn't call it anything, but like took the initiative to go ahead and put together a great lineup. And then within putting together that great lineup, you have people in the community who feel ways about, for one, it being an all-women lineup, and not just it being an all-women lineup, but within it being an all-women lineup, they also, they don't want it to be labeled, but yet they still have an issue within it being all women. Actually, it was all, just keep it real, it was all black women, one white woman, to really get down to the nitty-gritty on it. So it's an interesting thing that people will sit on the sidelines and complain while people are actually actively trying to make some style of change in the community, and then want to bitch, moan about there actually being actions implemented in that. How you feel on that?
It's bullshit. That's all it is. People, this is what it is. This is what pisses me off about it. They bitch and they moan about stuff, but we put this show on and they all seen it, and not one female comic came out to support these other women.
No.
But they jump behind. They want to talk shit about it. Which it was nothing to talk shit about.
Right.
Like, it was that was one of the best shows I've been a part of since I started comedy. Like, it was off the chain. Like, they tore the roof off of it. Everybody enjoyed it. And then I think the audience was like 98% women. I think it was like 5 dudes there.
There was five men.
Yeah.
And they were there. There were 3 with coupled up, and then there was only, I think, 1 male.
That was
there.
And everybody, you know, so had a good time, and somebody still had an issue with it.
The lineup was fire too. Everyone was like, their sets were perfect. Like, everyone laughed. They touched on issues that one of the comedians, she had commented on her Instagram. She had said that it was a night of women with great comedy on topics that men aren't faced with. So she kind of, you know, outlined that, but everyone they were brilliant. They touched on all kinds of things. It was fire from start to finish, and there were no other comedians that came out to support.
Nope.
The crowd was packed. There is such a need, and I have said this before to other comedians. They don't think that an all-female lineup will draw a crowd, but every time we've done that, either consciously or not conscious, it's been packed.
But this is what it is. If they've done it, the lineups they're putting together are women that don't deserve those spots. You know what I'm saying? I don't give a fuck what your gender is.
Yeah.
If you aren't ready to be on the showcase, you will not be on my showcase. I went and I sought out women that I thought that had been working with, that I knew was on top of their game, but no one's giving them looks. Mm-hmm. So that's why I put that show together.
That's the other thing. So there was a comment brought out on the Instagram post by another Denver comedian who stated that one of the other comics, as a producer, she produces a show as well, that she's not really booking other female comics on her lineup. But honestly, as a producer, statistically, you have 80 males, or it could be 80 men and 2 women. So statistically, it's harder to get a female anyway. Plus, when you're in a show that's not in Denver, you try to book who can get there, because we're not able to pay, you know, a lot of money to pay for travel and stuff like that. So a lot of comics won't travel to like Loveland or to Breckenridge to do a comedy show. So I'm booking that. You kind of book what you know, who is good, who will put on a good show for your people, and then also be able to get there. and it'd be economically smart for them to do the show. So within that, it does eliminate some people, but it's not a conscious thing based on gender, for sure. And so this comedian was upset that she kind of outlined that, you know, women are faced with a lot of things that men don't. Specifically like childbirth, relationship things. One of the comedians that had performed, she had just had a child. So her talking about, you know, how the child just takes everything from you, and she wasn't able to do any mics for a while. So, and she made it funny, like it was relatable. And what really was a telling thing is that all these women showed up that had nothing to do with comedy. And they were there, they were excited about seeing women, they were excited about the content they talked about, and they were excited to have a night out. So those things tell me as a producer, this needs to be more of. However, when you have a comedian basically marginalizing another comedian that is the same, she's a woman as well, why would you attack that person? You know, why, especially publicly? If you had that big of an issue, why did it need to, you know, go down like that? Why would you do that when she's a female as well?
But this is what I don't like. I don't like when people do that shit. They go after people, but then when that person goes back after them, then it's like, oh, well, I didn't even mean it like that.
Yeah.
It's just like, and that's what she did. Because I don't think she was expecting old girl to really to chop back at her like that. Because it surprised me. I'm like, damn.
Yeah.
That's what I like about the comedy world, though. Like, there's no holds bar when it comes into, like, if you want to.
Man, it used to be that. It's not like that out here, man.
No? What are you saying on that?
Huh?
What do you mean by that?
Joe, they're policing other comedians' material. Like me, they don't fuck with me because I say what I want to say and I can make it funny and I can stand on my own 2 feet. So they don't like that. So they don't even. It's a lot of shows that I just know I won't do. You know what I'm saying? Just because they don't like the things I talk about. You know what I'm saying? They don't like the way I speak. But they know if any show I come to, I'm tearing the motherfucking roof off that bitch. But because of my content, then they're like, oh, he's not good for this show. He's not good for this show. This, that, and the other.
So let me ask you guys a question on that. So with the politics that are played within the industry, right? Within the not the music industry, but the comedy industry, with female, with male, with white, with black, with Latino, because there's a lot of lines that are happening in the comedy world right now. How do you feel? Like, do you navigate the politics, or do you pay attention to the politics, or do you just make your business better than the politics? Like, how do you guys feel like the best approach is around the politics?
I don't pay attention to it, man, because your comedy is a reflection of you. You know, and the thing about it is that when you start out, you have to carve out your audience. I don't care if I was talking about cat food. There's going to be somebody in the audience that's not going to like it. You know, I don't like you talking about cat food. Right. So, okay, that joke ain't for you. That's just what it is. You know what I'm saying? If I tell a joke, that's the thing. People want to, like, get you shut down and get you not, you know what I'm saying, get you to a point where you can't even come to the club instead of say, okay, that joke just ain't for me. Right. You know what I'm saying? And that's the terrible part about it. And, like, a lot of clubs are like that. You know, I've been to clubs where I've sent tapes to clubs, and I've talked to the booking people, and they're like, well, you know, that kind of content, we really don't like it in our club. And I'm just like, but I do it in front of the audience. They love it.
Do you feel like it's a Colorado thing?
No, it's all over. It's all over. I learned that at the when I went to a World Series of Comedy, and I met like all these bookers that run these big clubs from all across the country and stuff. It's the same thing all across the country. Until you get, but this is the thing. It's only when you at this level. When you get on TV and people will pay to see you, they don't care what you say then, because it's all about money. Right. You know, so if people are willing to pay to get up there and say whatever, they'll do it. You can do it then, but now at this point, now it's like, oh, well, you can't do that. Right. You know.
I want to read what she wrote, just so you can have some context. No name. Okay. She says, I am forever grateful for my sisters in comedy, for knowing glances we share at the mics, for the jokes told and the whispers we can't get away with on stage, for the camaraderie of surmounting our personal struggles to order to make it to the stage at all. We stumble, we break down, we are insecure, but we do it because we have something to say. And with that persistence, we became bulletproof. Love to all women doing work, and love to the men lifting us up. This is what she said in her post. And then you have, this is amazing. And She didn't break down any males.
Right.
She didn't lay blame. She did put it out there that, there's things women, can't do. And I think that's why their comedy's edgier too, as well, because they're trying to, push the lane a little bit.
Right.
And so I thought that was beautiful. So to have someone who won't do a show that is produced by me, another woman, and have her single her out like that when she says something that's so profound to a community. This comedian is trying to build a community, and she was thankful for the other women that were there.
Right.
She called them her sisters. She thanked the men for lifting them up because this was produced by a male. So the whole thing was I was kind of like, what? Are you kidding me? There was no way that there was anything in this that was cause for attack.
This is what I'm trying to tell you. She said that makes all the sense in the world.
Right.
But she still has something to say
sure did.
behind that. That's what I'm saying. It's not about women in comedy. It's about you having an issue and being heard. It's about her sucking and not being good enough to be put on shows, and now she wants to make it a feminist issue. Now it's all women. No, it's you.
Mm-hmm.
Right,
you know what I'm saying? But
and
now
then she brought something up that was interesting. That right there should be a telling tale that it isn't even about the comedy or skill level. She said, and this isn't the comedian who made the post. This was the attacking comedian. She said, I don't want to be part of a good old boys club. I want to be a part of a person's club. Well, if you're going to do that, then quit attacking the people on your team.
Real quick, the Good Old Boys Club is a white club, meaning that that's patriarchy, right? Patriarchy was developed by white males who developed the system, right? So you guys being you being a Latina female and you being a black male who put together an event, how can you guys be the Good Old Boys Club? For one, you're a black male, you're a female, you're a woman, female, who's putting together this event. There is no Good Old Boys Club within that situation at all.
Right.
So it lets you know that whatever she's upset about is very personal. It has nothing to do with the actual situation of the women who are on the lineup, because there's no Good Old Boys Club being played out in that situation in any context.
Well, they were freaking out about Joan Rivers. She didn't want to be part of the male Good Old Boys Club. She went in her own direction. So this comedian was using her an example, but if she really thought that through, she basically attacked a show, and she's being a white person, she definitely only went after the only white person involved in the whole show as well. So for me, that led a little bit of always question, because that's always in the back of a person of a minority's mind, because that's what we're used to.
Well, that's the thing. People go after people they think that they can overtake. That's all it is. So she knew she wasn't going to go after any of them, you know what I'm saying, Tahiri, Shanae, or Rashina, so she went after her.
Yeah.
Right. And, I feel like it's one of those things that pulls the culture down. The fact that you guys are trying to push forward the culture, trying to nonchalantly put together an event that embraces feminine energy, but within that you're going to have people who are on the outside because of politics. It has nothing to do but politics in that situation. But they want to rag on it. It's
hilarious though, but these are people that won't even do LaRae shows. They won't even do the shows, but they're bitching about it. And I'm just like, how? But I already knew it. I knew somebody was going to have something to say. I knew it. I knew that it was either going to be one of those subliminal posts on Facebook that's not directed at anybody, because they didn't going to say shit directly to me. So I knew it was going to be something out there, and there you go.
I also had a comic recently. It was a male. He made a comment, I reached out to book him, and he was like, oh, I didn't think you booked white comics. And that really blindsided me, because I've never picked based on, I just pick who I know is good, who I know supports me, and that's all I've ever done. So that kind of blew me away. So I was like, yeah, I basically do my shows like you guys do yours. You guys all have just one woman, one black guy, and all white guys. So I do it on the flip. And I made it as a joke, and then he laughed and really didn't have anything to say after that. But, those are all things that I think people don't realize how heavy racism, the whole feminism, the misogyny, all the isms is, it's really prevalent in the community, period, but how deep it runs into entertainment.
It really runs deep in entertainment. It happens in the music industry. I feel like artists of color here in Colorado have to work hard to have relevancy, where like, and this is just honest truth from what I've noticed. You have artists who do alternative music, rock and roll music, who get like placement on, I'm not going to say radio names, station names, but they'll get placement on that. And they'll play rappers, but they'll never play a rapper of ethnicity within that. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like, you know, there's publications who are out there who like, they throw these subliminal jabs at like colors of artists of color, and like have no accountability within it ever. And I think that it's one of those things that like it takes the community galvanizing their power and really like bringing like these styles of subjects to the surface, because these things don't get discussed a lot of the time.
Well, I will say this, it's about support as well. You know, people need to start supporting these artists of different ethnicities, because it's all about money. If someone has a following, I don't give a hell what you are. They're going to put you on blast because they're looking, okay, we can make this amount of money off that person, you know? And I was actually talking to a white cat about this. I was driving Lyft, and he was saying he grew up in like a suburban, you know what I'm saying, white neighborhood, cul-de-sac type thing. And then he was playing basketball. He was playing on the AAU team. And so he's playing like all these inner city teams. And so he like started meeting all these like black cats and stuff, and they start introducing him to hip hop and all this stuff. And it blew his mind, because it was a whole world he knew nothing about.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And so you have to go out and support these people, because as long as they have support behind them, then people will say, okay, we want to put you on the show because we know, oh, you got 5,000 people on Facebook. We know we can get at least 50 of those people to come out to the show. And that's what they're looking at. You know what I'm saying? You got a lot of artists out here doing great things, but they don't get any support. And I feel like white people, they take chances on artists. Right. They'll go to just a random, like a lot of our people just come just to check us out. Right. You know what I'm saying? Whereas black people, they wait for the mainstream to tell them what's hot. Right. And then they follow behind that. You know, because it's a lot. Like, dude was in my car playing some hip hop. I'm like, who is these dudes? He like, yo, this so-and-so, this so-and-so, this people I ain't even heard of. Right. And he putting me up on me. He a white dude. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Colorado actually has one of the biggest underground, like, supports culture out here. I mean, like, as far as, like, underground hip-hop artists, you would think, like, artists like Tech9 and, like, Zion I and Atmosphere and all these artists who tour through here regularly, like, you wouldn't think that they have huge followings. Like,
they love Tech9 out here.
Playing Red Rocks, you know, which
they
is
love them.
Huge venue. And Colorado has always been like a strong support for underground independent movements when it comes into music. I think that's one of the things that we kind of have gotten taken advantage of, almost, in a sense.
I think someone told me this a while ago. They said you'll never get respected where you started. Right. Like you be better off starting somewhere, building your, you know what I'm saying, whatever you're doing up, and then going somewhere else and then starting out fresh there. Like, you'll get more respect there because people will always see you as that person when you started out.
Right. It's the Jesus complex.
Yeah.
Jesus got no love in Nazareth, you know?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I also, this week we had Summer Jam here, which is, you know, been going on, I think, like 20 years. I know at least 15 for sure. I know that there were a lot of clubs that wouldn't allow the after parties because of the people that go to Summer Jam, because they didn't, you know, they view them as, they don't say anything about it except for that just doesn't fit our culture here. Yeah. But yet you have this DJ in there spinning hip hop for these people, but you don't want to hold the Summer Jam after party. So that was a huge thing. I know 2 places that didn't take the after party.
That's crazy. This year's Summer Jam had almost all local artists,
which was so cool. Top Flight.
Yeah, Top Flight. Yeah, Trev Rich.
Yeah, that was really cool.
It was a lot. I mean, who was the major headliner? Was there a major headliner? I think like Trev Rich may have been a major headliner. 5280. Top Flight. Top Flight Entertainment. I think they might have been the headliners for this go around. I think.
I don't even know.
It's impressive just because I've been in Summer Jams since Summer Jams, you know, like for a long time. And like, it's usually like, you're going to get like the Drakes, you know, you're going to get like the bigger names, the Futures, huge artists usually who come out for the Summer Jam. But it shows where the industry is changing out here in Denver. And the support is starting to slowly come around. I think it's the better produced shows. The artists are becoming more refined. Their businesses are getting better. So you're starting to get more local support. I feel like the younger generation who's coming up, they have more of a root support than like previous generations.
People also need to learn how to branch out too and get into, areas that they normally wouldn't go into, because I mean, you never know who will support you. And someone was trying to explain to me like the East Side and then Cap Hill. You know what I'm saying? It was like if you East Side, you East Side. You Cap Hill, you Cap Hill. You know what I'm saying? So there was
Park Hill.
Oh, Park Hill. I mean, and they
Hill,
don't like cross over. And I'm like, why not? And like that's the way it
happened
is.
to now. That's why we were talking about that whole gentrification thing. People didn't realize, I think, how segregated we were. But if you were from Park Hill, you already had a stigma for Park Hill. East Side, like when you met someone, where are you from? It wasn't Thornton. You were like West Side,
East
Park
Side,
Hill,
North
from
Side.
Acre,
That's kind of how it is in Chicago. You from South Side or West Side?
Yeah. I'm North Side.
I mean, I feel like gentrification has been good for that, if nothing else. It's made minorities have to look at themselves and be like, you know what, you being marginalized, I'm being marginalized. Let's figure out how to, get together on some level. I feel like it's still a lot of segregation within like the activist movements. When you think about the black community and like what they're engaging within gentrification and their connection to the Latino community and the ways that they're being marginalized, I feel like there's still a big gap within addressing that. And you do have people who are able to cross over those boundaries, like Candy Baca. You know what I'm saying? Because she's Latina, but she grew up in the East Side, but she still recognizes who she is within her roots. So because she recognizes who she is in her roots, she's able to kind of cross over and address a variety of different issues. But there's not enough of that, in my opinion, right now, which is...
it need to be the leaders of these groups that's doing that, but...
It's elders, too, man. Like, I feel like a lot of the elders in the community, they're still holding on to their power, and they're not wanting to pass down the torch to the next generation.
That's another thing. I was actually talking to somebody about that, about how... You got what you say, like you got elders that don't want to pass the torch and just, do and take their next progression, the struggle. And then you have people that don't want to look up to the elders. Then you got people that need to be elders that don't want to be elders. They still want to be young.
Right.
So nobody's doing what the fuck they need to do.
Yeah.
Sometimes I've met two elders, one recently, one a couple years ago. And some of them, it's interesting the way they project themselves. They don't project themselves as someone who's done, like, very important things in the community. They're the ones that help change the community. They're just like, they're there, they're goofy, they're just there. And so people don't take them serious. And then one had passed away recently. And when he passed away, it was like, oh my God, he started this. He's the one who owned that. Man, how did I not know that? And it was because he didn't ever really put out there what he had done. And the people surrounded by him never knew, like, the reason why they were doing what they were doing was actually because of him. And I met a woman this week, actually, and it was the same thing. She seemed to me like, I think I talked to Il about this the other day, is I was feeling some kind of way because with myself and being my implicit bias, I guess, if you will, she was just kind of goofy, seemed scattered, like not put together. And during our conversation, she was like, yeah, I used to own this. Oh, I was his teacher. I'm the one who helped him with his business plan. Yeah, I founded this place, and I was like, holy cow, this woman, I would have never even reached out to her.
I don't think it's their job to really put out there what they've done. People know what they've done. It's just that motherfuckers don't give a fuck, or people don't actually like hold that in high regards that you did all of this stuff for us that allows us to do this stuff.
Right, that's why I'm saying they don't put it out there. They're not like, they're not looking for that attention. So it was so easy for me just to like
be dismissive
to her when she actually has information that could be helpful to me and to everyone else as a leader.
Well, that's why I always just talk to people. on a regular level, and you find out stuff if you just actually talk to a person. No one's walking around with a big sound on their forehead or their back or what they've done or what they can do, this, that, and the other. So you just talk to people. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm going to meet this guy after I leave here. Met him at the open mic, and we just got to talking. He's like, yeah, man, I want to put together a sketch comedy troupe. He's like, I got everything. He like, I got lighting. He like, I got video. He like, I got a big green screen in my garage. He's like, I just need some people to come write with me and make it happen. So I'm going to meet him after this, so I wouldn't have never guessed it, but I sat down and I talked to him. We just got the, politicking, and bam.
It's that openness.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that could be our problem, that there are leaders there, but we're not taking the time to
get to know who these people are.
To get to know them and really see, what everybody's doing. We just pass this.
I think as a culture, though, we're doing that. We look on Instagram, Facebook, TV, and if we don't see those people there, we just, you're not anybody.
Exactly. That's
what I'm saying? Yeah. Instead of actually sitting down talking to these people and finding out who they really are,
Right. I feel like that's one thing that in our culture right now, like we do marginalize these elders. Mostly because of the engagement or lack of engagement in social media, because that's what your relevancy is really like held on nowadays, is like how loud you are, how many likes you are, how many people are commenting on your Facebook page. And we have elders out here who have done some incredible things within the community, who've pushed forward policies, who have changed a variety of the culture that, put together events. I know, like, I grew up with Kavum and his mama Shara. She started Cafe Nuba. And then from Cafe Nuba, that became Slam Nuba. And then from Slam Nuba, all these different spoken word houses ended up developing. It wasn't just her who developed out, but she very much was the brainchild who started the Artivist movement, activists who are engaging in art. And most people who are from a younger generation, they don't even have any context of what that is. They don't even have any context of why Kavum moves the way that he does and how his mom like really kind of brought him up in the culture of what that was. And I think that it's on us as we're not quite elders yet. We're like in that middle stage of OG.
But I think that's part of the disconnect that, the powers that be are trying to create. They're trying to disconnect people and connect you to your devices because they can feed you anything through this. Yeah. Whereas they can't change the elders' minds. They know what's going on, and you get pure information from them. Whereas you look at this thing, all your information is biased to whoever's putting it out.
The news.
Yeah, exactly. I'm telling you, people don't understand, man. This shit is all planned out, man, and it's orchestrated, and they playing the long game.
Oh yeah,
they playing the long game.
So that's my next question. Within that, we know that the internet is manipulated. We know that the algorithms are manipulated in the ways that we actually access news and we access different information off of somebody's timeline. I feel like this is a great format. Like WeAreDenver. And what they're doing within the podcast is a great format to get out new information. I feel like All Real Radio is a great format to really push against the mainstream norms and the ways that we view things. How do you feel that we continually like push against the system when it comes into like the internet, social media, and the ways that we actually get our information at this point?
Shit, I don't know. I don't even have an answer for that, man. We gotta start with community, man. We gotta start back to doing things the way we used to do them, but we also have to incorporate the internet and things that nature, because it is an important tool. But we can't let it run our lives, and we can't let it be the only thing that we're getting information from. We have to respect these elders in our communities. These motherfuckers don't respect people don't respect regular old folks.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So they ain't even respecting the people that have actually done things to progress movements and the cultures and things of that nature. So, we just need to work on community, get back to what we were doing things inside the community, learn how to barter so that, people aren't put out on the streets and things of that nature, to where, hey, I can do this. I can do floors. I can clean your house if, help me out with this. Something, what I'm saying?
So that right there, what you just said, I do a lot of stuff with Rocky Mountain Microfinance, and I facilitated this workshop they did. And there's all these lawyers and engineers and different things that volunteer their time, because what they're doing is they're trying to, build entrepreneurship with people who normally wouldn't get that chance, and and help change their mindset. So we were working with an engineer that day who was talking to everybody about their processes, and what they do is a lean. And so what lean does is help eliminate steps to make you more productive, or find different ways to do the same thing faster and just improve, especially when you don't have money. That's super important. But everyone in the room was a minority, So it was interesting. And the engineer, he was a white guy, and he was super cool. So one of the women in there is a visual artist. She's a amazing artist, and she was talking about she needs to get help with taxes and contracts and different things, and she's like, but I don't have money. She's like, I'll get commissioned, I'll make a piece, I'll be able to pay my bills for a couple months. She's like, but I don't have money to do all these other things or pay for these systems that help with building my email list and newsletters. And he was like, do you know that you hold the best, you hold all the keys in your hand? He said, do you know that if you went to a lawyer and said, hey, can you make this contract for me? I don't have money, but I'll let you have a piece that I'm working on. He said, do you know how many people would love to hang your art in their home? And then they can say, yeah, she's one of my clients and she's doing really well. She's doing this, this, and this. And they'd have this painting for their office. And I think as a minority, we're used to bartering with each other. Mm-hmm. Like, oh, da-di-da on the corner, they have all this food dinner, everybody goes over there for dinner, and then this person watches this person's kids. But I think she was like, yeah, that's what I normally do, but it didn't occur to her to go to a white person who was a lawyer or an engineer or whatever and barter her art for a service, So he told her that, and she was like, oh, okay.
One thing you'll find is white people with money have like open information that they're not scared to go ahead and give you. And the thing is as minorities, we have a way, because of the ways that we've been brought up. Once we get something, we don't share it with nobody. Where like I feel like, and that's a cultural thing. It's very much a black community thing. When we obtain some style of information or some style of success, we have a tendency to not want to give that out to the rest of the brothers and the sisters in the community, because that's your secret and you made it out, and you don't want everybody to have that secret. And it's something that played out in the hip hop. We used to do that with the labels, where if you had a dope record, you put white labels on it so nobody knew exactly what that record was you were spinning. So it's something that we definitely have in our culture that plays out in a variety of different ways. But one thing that I've learned is I've gotten the best and most information within politics, financial advice, financial literacy from rich white people who are openly and willing to go ahead and give that information up to you because they have nothing to lose.
Well, yeah, because as being black people, there's a stigma around dealing with white people, to where you're told don't trust them, don't fuck with them, this, that, and the other, because of what happened in the past. And I'm like, I know some good ass white folks. You know what I'm saying? Like, I know white people that have literally left their family because they were racist and they didn't like black people. You know what I'm saying?
Me too, for sure.
So I know for a fact there's folks out here that they like volunteer information. They're easy to talk to. They're easy to approach. They're not trying to be manipulative. They'll just give you the information, So
it's easy to cop out and just be like, nah, I can't talk to him, I don't trust him.
Exactly. You get a lot of that, you know what I'm saying? And I'm like, why? Why would you limit yourself by doing it? I'm like, as much information, I'm like, that's what life is. It's like taking information from different sources and creating something for yourself.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So talk to anybody, talk to everybody. I encourage everybody to travel, see the world, talk to people in different countries from different backgrounds, and then you will learn. It will open your mind up to so much.
Exposure.
Within that meeting, I talked to him about my business for 5 minutes, just 5 minutes, and it was just random talking, how I normally do. And I told him, I was like, oh, I need a system I think I was talking about not being able to pay someone to do the door. And then I manually write things down at an event, and then later I add it to my spreadsheet. And so I was concerned with those things because I felt like it was double work and it was taking too much time. And after he listened to me, he said, that's not your problem. He said, what your problem is that you're ready for growth, but you don't have internally, he said, the resources right now to pull that off. He said, so you need to really start focusing on attaining the things to make bigger movement. And I was like, wow, you just got that from me in 5 minutes. And then he told me, he was like, give me a call. He was like, if I'm not busy, if I have something else I'm working on, I won't be able to help you, but give me a call and I'll help you with those things. And I was like, wow, thank you.
Right.
He was just super insightful and he was just there to, like, no agenda.
Let down the bias.
Yeah. So it was something that was really neat, and it definitely made me think about the stuff I've been focusing on that I thought was important that's not.
Right.
So it was really neat. And the other thing I did this week is I made a post about there was a march, a big march in 1969 for the Latino leaders in the community. One specifically, Rudolfo Gonzalez, Porky. And I posted this picture because it was the biggest organized march of any Latino community in the United States ever. And it happened here in Denver. And I posted it because I'm very interested in the culture and the past and history here. And then because my family's lived here since the 1400s, like they know that. And I posted this picture and it was amazing. I actually had someone that was a Facebook friend say, oh, I'm the one in the hat with my fist up. Like, that's me. And this person, we went to high school together. And do you know they later killed him? Which none of that is in this. So I was like, man, what is going
but that's
on
information
here?
you can only get from people and not from that publication.
Right. So, but going back to what you said, the internet, social media is good because it lets us know, like, what's happening. Like the next topic we're going to go into about a young man who is working his business and then started being harassed by a said police officer. And we get that information. However, we don't get the truth pretty much because it's put
It's
out
always skewed to make somebody in that look bad.
So we need to have personal contact.
I'm going to tell you a story about this before I go. Just the way the media does things. I did a show, I can't remember, I did a show somewhere. But it was these two young white girls, they were from Chicago. So after the show, they enjoyed it. They came up to me, we was talking. She's like, oh yeah, you know, we're from Chicago, this, that, and the other. And I told her a joke about something. It was a racial joke. I can't remember what it was. But they said, like, you know, it was kind of crazy that you told that joke because I guess their family had money, so they grew up in a gated community, and she was like, the only information we knew about black people is what came through the TV or what our parents told her, right? And so they ended up going to UIC to college, and so they were like in Chicago in the inner city and stuff, and she said they went to a game at Wrigley Field. And so after the game, a big brawl started out between these two groups of white people, groups of white fans, right? And so they fought, and then the police came, they scattered, and it was like a group of black guys there, and they all jumped out, went after the black dudes, didn't know nothing. And so the girls were like, no, they didn't do anything, you know what I'm saying? And they wouldn't listen to them, this, that, and the other. And then news showed up. And so the girls stepped up like, hey, you know, we seen everything that happened, but they didn't want to talk to them. They talked to like some homeless black person that was looked downtrodden, this, that, and the other. Wasn't even there, didn't even know what was going on, but interviewed that person over them.
Yeah.
And they said, now we see how the news makes you look at black folks.
Man,
you know,
it's implicit bias. You know, like that's one thing. We do forums, and within the forums, we had one forum with this officer who was complaining. He was complaining about the ways that officers are being viewed in the news, you know, and the ways that they've been depicted in the news. And one of the kids, he was probably about 14 years old. He took a newspaper, he pointed it out to the officer, and he was like, look at how we're depicted in the news. You know, he's like, look at all the ways that they make us look in the news. And the officer had an epiphany in that moment because he never really thought about that. You know what I'm saying? And because like we're conditioned to accept these different ideas through the news about one another. Like I feel like that's one thing that is good about officers being called out is that they have to now look at the ways that stigma and bias works against minorities, because they're in the same boat that we're in when you really think about the ways that they're depicted in the news, like within the shootings that are happening, within like this most recent incident that happened in Houston with this officer who, like, everybody was really quick to jump on, like, this dude is doing some fucked up things to these kids, but within it, you get more information about it, and then you realize that there's people who are playing around with the bias in order to, like, be able to marginalize people.
Yeah, I've heard about that before out in Chicago, to where they said it was like fake cops going around. Well, actually, I'll probably put too much business out. I actually know they were real cops, and what they would do is they would go to different areas and they would raid houses. And they would keep they would take the drugs, sell the drugs back, and keep the money.
Right.
And that's what they did.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and I mean, that's
real. That happens here, too.
Yeah, it happens a lot here.
Yeah,
actually.
I remember hearing it. I have a couple of relatives that were police officers, and
it's one of the biggest cases that happened here in Colorado was officers who were going to banks, and they were robbing the banks. And it happened in the 1960s and the early 1970s, where they were robbing these banks and they were dressed up in regular clothing, but they found out about the access to the banks because they were officers, and they were able to kind of scope out and case the joint. So,
but this is what needs to happen, because the cops just know what's going on, need to step forward. If you ain't doing shit, you know what's going on. But it's like this. This is the way you look at it. You look at it like this. If me and you friends, and I know you cheating on your girl, I ain't finna go tell your girl that you cheating. You know what I'm saying? And that's the way you look at it. Like, that's my brother. I ain't finna go.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I know he did it, but woo. But I mean, like, if you know something going on, whether you did it or not, you just as guilty as they are.
I feel like it gets a little bit more complicated when you're an officer that is from the community, or grew up in the community, because when you observe things and you see things, you make a choice on who you're going to be within that moment. As an officer, you're supposed to report those incidences, regardless if it's a friend or not. Mm-hmm. But as a community member and somebody who has to go back to that community at some point, and I've seen it go down in town hall meetings where, they're calling out officers as coons and, like, you a part of this community, but, like, you ain't really a part of us. Those styles of things happen.
I personally think, and this is going to be controversial, I don't think white people should be able to police black neighborhoods.
I think there's a lot of minorities
because I think there's a deep-rooted fear of black people. And it's not even anything that they're, like, necessarily they know of or they're trying to do purposely. I do think some of these cops do fear for their lives when they shoot these black people, because I don't think what true fear. Real fear is debilitating, and your body will do whatever it takes to get out of that. So if you're scared of somebody or a particular group of people, and that person raises up or raises their voice, your fear kick in.
Right.
I do think they be scared, and sometimes I do think a lot of it's bullshit, but I do think sometimes they do be scared, and it's just because of that deep fear they got inside them. It's in their subconscious. They don't even know it's there until they get in that.
I went to a community meeting last summer, and there was an officer there that was black. And he had said that during certain situations that they go into, sometimes he said you go in fearful and then not knowing. And he said, and your reaction isn't like, it's based on that fear. So he said he'd been in a situation where he ended up overreacting as well because of the situation. So it was interesting having him in there. But then also the community of 5 Points actually had a meeting, and I went to that as well. And there was a black officer there, and the community asked that because he was making changes within his, he was a chief of police.
He was a chief.
He was making changes because he, as a young officer, had seen the things that were going on. So it was something that when he became chief, he wasn't going to tolerate, but that he admittedly said, he knows and he's aware of still happening. But then the community asked, well, that's fine with you, but still Aurora police are coming in here, or
in Montbello.
Yeah. And why are they allowed? They should have to call you guys at that point, And
that's the way it used to be. You couldn't go into someone else's jurisdiction and do anything.
Well, when you're in a hot pursuit, well, this is what he said, because that was brought up. When there's a hot pursuit, they are allowed to go ahead and go into a different area. They do need to call the chief and let him know, but sometimes by then. So what had happened with this particular incident is there was a guy who actually did commit a crime, and it was in Aurora. He fled and he lived in Montbello. Well, the Aurora police, I guess, found out who he was, where he lived, and they went ahead and went to Montbello. And they rolled up on his house in an unmarked car with tinted windows. It was a Ford SUV, and they ended up shooting him. They didn't arrest him, they just shot him. And the community, you know, whether what was right or wrong, was like, why were they even allowed? They don't have the same training, because Denver police has made it a priority to engage in restructuring and looking at these things of the police being, afraid and just going in. And they always assume young black males are older than they are,
right.
Because of whatever reason.
Because the motherfucker be walking around looking like Debo, be 13 years old, be swole as hell, abs and shit.
So that's an issue. And his answer was, they are supposed to call, and he knew what incident they were talking about, and he said they did call, but they had reached before he actually got there, and they had already acted. So, I'm
gonna go ahead and put Aurora PD on blast real quick,
that's what we're talking about.
Because right now, like I've recently, I was a part of doing some training with APD, and within doing training with APD, we're doing emotional intelligence and implicit bias training. And one of the things that I've noticed with a lot of the new cadets is you're getting people who are policing that have PTSD. They're coming out of the military. They're coming out of like warfare. And then within that, you're supplying these people with guns, and they're policing people not with like the intention to protect the community, but they still have a war mind state that it's us against them. And if you're going into a community us against them, that's dangerous, because it's not us against them. There's a complex narrative when it comes to what's a criminal. Right? What's truly a criminal? Somebody who is desperate and is trying to go ahead and make something happen because they have nothing. And like, you're really criminalizing somebody who is in poverty when you really say it. And I understand there's complexity within that, but if everybody that you approach, you think it's us against them, and then you have PTSD and you're scared that these people are going to pull out guns, you're going to shoot them. Mm-hmm. Point blank. And then like, you think about the incident that happened with this Aurora PD going into Montbello. That's a whole layered situation, because there are different ethics that Denver PD has than APD, right? So if you're going in there and like your first initial action is like, we got to take them out, like that's crazy.
A lot of these police officers, they think they gangbangers, man. They're retaliating against people like that. You know what I'm saying?
They are.
And another thing, I'm going to tell you, I'm back to what I said at the beginning. You got a lot of bitch ass men that they joined the police force because they didn't get any respect, and now you give them a gun and a badge. You tell them people have to respect you. So when you go out in the street and somebody doesn't do what you say, it fucks with your mind, because they told me you supposed to listen to me. You ain't listening to me, and you a bitch ass dude. Yeah, you gonna do something crazy.
Yeah, it's accountability too. I mean, we were at the Stay Woke convention recently. I did that with Jonathan McMillan, H. Soul, and Alex Lando. And while we were at this convention or this summit, one of the kids had said he believed that officers should get the same consequences that a regular person gets for murder, right? Like if you kill,
they should get worse.
Yeah.
Because right?
They're a person in trust.
Right, exactly. So if you know better and you're killing somebody, that kid was like, no, you're a murderer. Yeah. Like if you murdered my brother and freaking you freaking just took his life without going through all the procedures that you've been trained on, you're a murderer. And I think that like, because there's not consequences, because you got Donald Trump in office who was out there saying like, oh, you know, if these criminals, minorities, that's really what he's saying, people who like MS-13, that's his main focus and his main target right now, MS-13. His main focus is Mexicans. Ain't got nothing to do with MS-13. Anybody who freaking looks like a Chicano, who dresses the part that they feel like looks like a criminal, they're now opening the door for that person to go ahead and get harassed and marginalized.
This is what they do, and I might get killed for saying this. What they do when they want to do some shit, when the powers that be want to do some shit, they know they can't just go out. They know they can't just go out and make a Muslim ban. They know they can't do it. So what they do is every terrorist attack, oh, the Muslims did it.
Right.
So now you got the American people asking the government, could you do something about these Muslims? Oh, okay. Well, we'll put the Muslim ban out there. You know what I'm saying? That's what they do. They make you want it. Then you ask them to protect us, and then they come and do what they want to do the whole time.
Implement a policy.
Exactly. That's why when you see them focusing on a group of people or a policy specifically, they want to change it. And so what they do is they do something. So they villainize those people, and they make people come in and say, hey, could you please take care of this? Okay, yeah, no problem. We wanted to do that anyway, but thanks for asking. So now when you come to us and say, well, we didn't want that. Well, yes, you did. You asked me to step in. That's what I did.
Exactly. You got a brother, Alex Lando, right now. He's got a campaign going on where it's I'm black and I vote. And really what he's really pushing right now is for people to be aware of what's happening within local politics and local lobbying, right? Too many of the time, like we got 2018 getting ready to come up for the midterms, and we usually, when it comes to the midterm, have very low number of minorities who go out and vote and pay attention to the policies and the people who are running for council. So because we're not paying attention to that, we're having policies that are being passed over our heads that are affecting us in major ways, that are like heightening the number of us going into prison, into jail. We have council people who aren't truly representing the community. We have black council people right now who are in those chairs who aren't really correctly representing the community. So like, let somebody who really isn't from that community, who is like has no understanding of that community, be in there. And they're affecting us because we're not paying attention to the voting. The things that we fought for in the 1960s are the very things that we're not engaging in right now.
That's what they count on, man. They have statistics on everything. They know who the fuck going out to vote. They know what's going on. They know how to get people in office and sneak them in without people knowing. They know all this stuff, man. And
they know that freaking we're not paying attention.
Well, yeah, it's not even sneaking. They putting them directly in there, but they know people aren't necessarily looking at that and concerned with it like they should be. You know what I'm saying? That's not anything. They know all this shit, man. And they make it to where they don't even try to put the people out there like that.
Yeah, it's definitely a plan.
Yeah, it's nothing that they're trying to say, oh, come take a look at this person. No one's doing that.
Yeah. Systems only work because we let them be put in place. Because we're not paying attention.
Because no one's paying attention.
No one's paying attention to it. So recently, there was an incident that happened in Houston, Texas. There was a young man, him and his friends, they were cutting lawns in the neighborhood, and they were stopped by an officer.
They even had business cards, D&M Lawn Service. They were set up pretty street legal as well.
They were legit. They were out there. They were doing their business. They were about their grind. And they were recently stopped by an officer who pretty much was putting pressure on them around.
He wanted to know why they were going door to door. They were putting business cards.
And one thing that I was really impressed by this young person that was speaking is that we do this workshop with OIM and the Youth Outreach Project. It's called Give 'em 5, right? You ask them, you say your name, right? But you ask why you're being pulled over. Am I free to leave? If you're not free to leave, okay, can I call my attorney? All right, can I call my parent, right? And then after all of that, you deny consent to be searched, right? Because they don't have the right to search anything that's locked up or zipped up in your backpack, or if you're driving your car, they can't go into your trunk.
Yeah,
right?
okay.
So like this,
they do what the fuck they want to do.
No,
man.
they do.
They do what the fuck they want to do.
The thing that was impressive about it is that this kid went through that list like seamlessly without even really think about it. He asked that cop why he was there, why you harassing me. The cop pulled out the handcuffs. The kid backed off. Was like, hold up, man.
And
like,
he said, I want your name. I want your card.
I want your card, right? What am I being arrested for is what he asked. So within the video, you know, like you're already kind of like, okay, this is kind of suspect. What's going on? And then it flips over into the next video later on that day, and that same officer is now standing on this kid's lawn, harassing him and his friends at his household, talking about like, hey man, like, you know, the kid is like, yo, get off of my lawn. What are you doing here? You're harassing me. This cop never
said you didn't allow me to finish questioning you.
That's what the officer said.
Yeah.
And then within that,
and because he got his name, he was able to find out where this kid lived too.
So after all of this happens, this kid gets beat up pretty severely. Like he has scars on his arms, bruises, bleeding, open wounds on his arms. So these kids took the initiative to raise money to get an attorney to go ahead and fight the police department. All to find out that the officer that was in question wasn't actually an officer.
And he had a uniform, a gun, a taser.
And I don't think people even realizing how bad that situation was going to go if they would have gotten the car with him. Because he was finna handcuff him, so he was finna take him somewhere. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't like you finna just handcuff him on the street.
Like, what was he gonna do?
Yeah, they wouldn't have backed off. But
But there was a couple of times during the video that made me like, oh, don't do that. Just let it. Don't back up.
Right, because you know.
Yeah,
but that's Joe, let me tell you something. And this is how they get you, man. They try to rob you of your manhood and make you fight for it, and then that's when you resist arrest. Right. I'm gonna tell you, I was in Chicago about 2-3 years ago. Can't remember, but I was coming from a friend's house, hadn't drunk nothing. I was in the rental car, didn't have nothing in the car. I'm finna turn, and it's an unmarked car pulled up behind me, right? So I wasn't tripping because usually they don't fuck with you, you know what I'm saying? So I turn, they put their lights on, I come over, and I can tell by the way they jumped out the car on both sides, they was on bullshit. They just jumped out too aggressively, you know what I'm saying? I was in the car by myself, nothing. So I'm sitting there, you know, and I'm trying to be as courteous as I can. Yes, officer, no officer, blah, 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 blah. And they just cussing me out. What the fuck you doing over here? Oh, you live in Denver. What the fuck you doing? I'm from here. I went to go visit a friend. You been drinking tonight? No, I haven't drunk anything all night. All right, we're gonna need to search this car. I'm like, okay, but I'm like, it's a rental car. There's nothing in the car. So they took me out the car, handcuffed me, put me on the curb, and then started going. They went through the car for like 25 minutes. They ain't really going through the car. They in the car fucking around. They talking to each other. I can see them and I can hear them. You know what I'm saying? But they just got me sitting on the curb. I don't know what they was finna do, but then they got a call. So dude get out the car. And he like, it's your lucky night. We got something else to go do, and let me go. Right. So I don't even know what they was gonna do to me.
Yeah, what does that even mean?
Exactly. I don't even know. And I ain't got no record, you know what I'm saying, nothing like that. But you just decide you want to fuck with me that night. Right. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I'm saying. If they decide they want to fuck with you, it ain't shit you can do. I don't care how courteous you are. I don't care how you follow the rules. If they want to fuck with you, they gonna fuck with you.
They gonna fuck with you.
You know? And like I say, what they do is they have this way of talking to you to where it's real condescending. Right. You know what I'm saying?
They're trying to get you to like react.
They want you to react. You know what I'm saying? And it's just like, Joe, they come at your manhood, and you just gotta play a punk or a bitch to go home alive, which is fucked up. You know?
I had an incident not too long ago where I was pulling out of my driveway and I was getting ready to go to the grocery store, and I'm talking to LaRae on the cell phone while I'm driving.
You weren't even driving, you were walking.
Yes, I was walking. But when I first pulled out, I seen the cops. They were standing outside. They were sitting outside of my house. When I was, living over at the house, they were sitting outside of the house, and they had been sitting there for a minute. So as soon as I jumped in the car, I was like, you know what? I got these Texas plates, because I was in my mom's car at that point. I was like, I got these Texas plates. They're going to probably mess with me. So I got out of the car, and I decided to go ahead and walk. So because I got out of the car in front of my house and decided to walk, they thought it looked suspicious, right? So he follows me at this point, and I'm talking to LaRae on the phone. I was like, hey, LaRae, I'm just gonna let you know, these cops are following me, so if anything goes down, like, you on the phone. So I start walking, and I hit the trail, this back trail that goes to the grocery store, because that's where I was going. And right before I hit this trail, these cops come swooping in on me, and this is here in Denver. They come swooping in on me and stop me like, hey, stop. We need to talk to you. And start going into this conversation of where are you going? Why are you getting out of the car? Why are you walking?
They grabbed the phone and hung up on me.
They took the phone out of my hand that I had. I was like, I'm talking right now. And I was like, I'm still talking. The dude took the phone out of my hand, turned off the phone, and put the phone on his windshield. And then during the whole situation, and they didn't know who I was. They didn't know until we started having conversation who I worked with and everything. As soon as they found out who I worked with and who I was, they back off me.
Yeah. They fuck with who they know they can fuck with. That's why they go into these impoverished neighborhoods, because they know that no one has any type of legal representation.
This wasn't the impoverished. This is a rich Jewish neighborhood.
But you was still a nigga though. I don't give a fuck.
Still a nigga. Exactly.
You still a nigga in a rich Jewish neighborhood. Hey, get that. What that nigga doing?
Yeah, exactly.
But that's what they do though. You know what I'm saying? Like, it ain't just white. It ain't just black people.
Nah,
they'll go to a poor white neighborhood. They gonna do the same thing because they know they don't have the representation.
Exactly.
You know, it's who you can fuck with. That's what it is.
That's that disparity gap right there. You know what I'm saying? The haves and the have-nots. Like, officers are there to protect those who have money. If you have no money, they ain't there to protect you.
They're there to regulate you.
I've already decided, and I'm going to say this. They're not here to protect us.
No,
they're not. They're here to uphold whatever the law is.
That's it.
They're not here to protect no fucking
here to uphold real law. You know, like
they don't even know the law, man.
Yeah,
you got people out here that know the law better than fucking cops that's supposed to uphold it.
One time, when I first started driving Lyft, it was the gay Pride week, and there was a parade, and they had certain streets blocked off while I was taking a group of people. And so I kind of pulled into around these cones to drop them off so they weren't getting off in the middle of Park Avenue. And this cop came over, and he started yelling in my face like, "Do you not see the cones?" I said, "Yes, I do." I said I needed to get them out safely. And he just got in my face and repeated the same thing 5 times. And I wanted to tell him, your breath is bad, your teeth are ugly, you need to go to the dentist. But I was like, this dude really said... And they do that to like demean, because I left there feeling like they think I was stupid. Like, why do you have to tell me that 5 times?
Some bitch ass men. That's what I'm saying. They're trying to take something from you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's all it is.
He was just pissed off, probably. He had to work the goddamn parade.
Right.
You know, and so that really pissed me off. That was this last summer.
So, like, to segue off of what we're talking about right there, there was a movie that just recently came out called Detroit. Right, Detroit is an important movie because of the riots that happened in Detroit. A lot of people don't know. A lot of the reason why Detroit is in the shape that it is right now is because they declared war on Detroit because of the rebellion that happened in Detroit during the 1970s, out in the 1960s, right around the shooting of Martin Luther King, you know? And then within that, there was horrific things that happened in Detroit within, like, the National Guard, the officers, and the community. Like, community burning it down, the National Guard not knowing how to handle it, the officers not taking accountability of the ways that they interacted with these people, because Detroit is like Chicago, if not worse, in the ways that they engage the community. So there's this movie that recently came out where they're addressing, like, this whole untold story of what happened within Detroit. And it really kind of roots back to, like, when you really think about our communities, specifically the black community, when you think about the Watts riots, when you think about the Detroit riots and all the riots that have happened, even in New York, when they had the blackout and there was riots where they went and they raided all these different department stores and things like that. From the outside perspective, if you don't have any idea of what the oppression is that's happening in those communities, you just think that it's a bunch of angry niggas who are just trying to loot.
That's what a lot of white people think when we complain about the cops, because they just don't have...
They don't have any perspective.
Exactly. They don't have the references that we do. They don't understand that literally, like, every time we get pulled up by cops, almost every time, we gotta go through some bullshit.
I don't know if you saw post one of the Denver comics made, that he was down on Broadway and someone called him the N-word. And then he was down there with his white friends, and they were like, oh my God, they were shocked that this happened to him. Like, it was just a random person, another white, and they felt bad, so they bought him dinner, and he was like, you gotta love white guilt, you know? Because so he segued it into, like, I got a free dinner out of this. But his friends were like, what the hell?
And that's a perfect example of, like, there being, like, alliances within white people, right? There are good people out there who want to support, that don't even necessarily understand the struggle that you go through as a person of color, right? On a daily basis, like, you're getting microaggressions and harassed on a daily basis. And you know, like the riots that happen are rally calls. Like, nah, man, I'm tired of this. It's a breaking point. You can only put up with so much freaking trauma before you want to go ahead and just be done.
But that's what's going on, I think, in the nation right now. There's a lot of white people that's seeing everything that's going on, and they're like, holy shit, like, this shit is really happening. Right. You know, that happened to me, because I remember I did a show up in Boulder, I think. And after the show, you know, it's Boulder, so kids are walking around, and there was a group of white kids out there, and like these girls walked past, and they was trying to holler at the girls. You know what I'm saying? The girls was like, oh, no, thank you. And then as soon as they got back, like, fuck you, bitch. I'm like, damn. Like, because, you know, you hear women complain about that all the time, but I've never seen it in action. Right. And, like, they were, like, going off, and I'm like, I had to step in, like, dude, chill out. They don't want to talk to you. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Nah.
And I'm like, damn, you know, but it's like sometimes you just don't know that this stuff is really going on until you see it with your eyes.
Right, and it's, you know, that's a perfect example to segue into patriarchy and the ways that patriarchy plays on a daily basis on college campuses and engagements in the workplace, cat calls walking down the street. Like, women get cat calls regularly. I remember I was talking to one of my homegirls about that. Like, she was telling me that, like, on a daily basis, she has to carry herself in a certain way so that she doesn't get cat calls. You know, like the dudes who are driving by, hey girl, how you doing? You looking good over there. Like, that's a microaggression. That's something that's traumatizing somebody who isn't like open to you sitting there hollering at them.
I don't necessarily look. If a motherfucker just say, hey, you look nice,
that's
just take it and walk the fuck out. Now, if a motherfucker cuss y'all, hey bitch, come here, nice fat asses, like, okay, that's harassment. But the motherfucker says, hey, you look nice. Some women will take that and be like, oh, you're harassing me. No, motherfucker, I'm trying to spread up a conversation, your punk ass. Like, some people just take it too far. I understand the one side of it, but also I see the other side to where people just overreact to shit, you know?
Right. I think, you know, there's a definite fine line around that, because, like, one thing I will say, there is no question when it comes to racism, right? If somebody calls you a nigga, you know that they called you a nigga, and you know how you feel around it. I feel like when you get into these other styles of oppression, when you're talking about patriarchy, there becomes a gray area in that, meaning that, like, is it okay to holler at a woman in a certain way if she's not accepting to it, right? If she's not open to it, because, like, it's one thing to go ahead and be like, hey, girl, you looking good today, like, and it's another thing to, like, make her feel uncomfortable within saying that if she's not open to it.
Last summer, working at Presbyterian St. Luke's, we had a woman who was brought in through the emergency room, and they couldn't get her blood, so I had to go down there and help them. But with that, her and her friends were walking down Broadway, and a white male tried to pursue her, I guess, and she, you know, wasn't interested. And then so he called her the M-word and a bitch and whatever, and she popped off back. You know, she jumped in him, and he assaulted her. He beat her pretty badly, and she was brought in like that, and the cops that were there actually kind of treated her not as a victim, but more or less kind of like, what did you do to provoke this? We have video. We're pulling the video off Broadway, because I don't know if people know, but there's cameras all everywhere, up and down Broadway. Everywhere. So them not finding someone or not knowing, I have a hard time to believe that too. So that was interesting to see, like, how. And it was a white male who did it, and I don't know that they even went after him and arrested him. It was more like following her and interrogating her in the situation. It was a disgusting whole
Look,
process.
let me tell you something, guys. You don't have to catcall women or disrespect them to get women. What you need to do, and I'm finna give you the secret, become rich and or famous. You can get any woman you want. Look at Usher. Usher out here giving women the package, and he's still out here fucking. Man. Dude, let me tell you something. See, I'm the type of person, I don't just take stories at face value. Always gotta dig deeper. Them women some nasty motherfuckers. Them some nasty ass women. Once you read everything, like the one woman, she actually said that she's seen
green discharge. And she asked him at that point, what's even to ask?
Yeah, right. Usher a nasty motherfucker too. Usher nasty as shit too, because now I don't know if y'all know, the wife is suing him because she's saying that one of the kids tested positive for herpes. He wasn't born that way, but they were saying, like, Usher would be just like, you know what I'm saying, have outbreaks and just be around the kids, touching them and shit. So, yeah, like, so she's suing him too now.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
But I guarantee you, Usher is fucking somebody right now, just like Magic Johnson is.
You know, he probably is. And he's probably spreading.
They don't, man. I'm telling you.
He's probably spreading that disease a little bit more. I'm disappointed. I'm not surprised. You know what I'm saying? Like,
At what point does a person go to jail for that? I mean, okay, so she sued him. He went to court. They pulled his records, and he knowingly did have that, and he didn't divulge that. So he is. But then, at what point do you keep doing these things?
He should have went to, once they found out he knew and he was having unprotected sex with women, you got to go, brother.
Right.
You got to get up out. I don't give a fuck what you
gotta
made.
go to jail because that's like having
AIDS.
Well, it's like, what is it versus manslaughter versus when you plan it out? You know.
Yeah.
You know.
Premeditated.
That shit's premeditated. There you go. He should go to jail.
He should have. He should have been in jail the first time. I totally agree.
I don't necessarily disagree with you on that. I think that it becomes
But I'll put it to you like this. If I see something dripping out your vagina,
that's all I was going to say. That's exactly what I was
am not going to have sex with you.
The other thing is to know that statistically, 1 in 4 people has herpes, period. So if you're out there in the streets, you need to just wrap it up, period. Yeah. I mean...
I ain't even putting my dick in nothing no more. I'm just sticking my toe in there from now on, goddammit. I can lose a toe.
Oh my God. He's like, I can give up. I'm going to lose it anyway.
I'm sure how that feel, baby, goddammit. I know it ain't that big, but I'm trying to be safe.
Oh my God.
So we went all around the world within topics today in conversation.
Yeah, because we fucked up and didn't come up with nothing during the week.
It did come down to that somewhat. We got some great guests getting ready to come up. We have Candy Baca coming up here pretty soon. We got Harold James, Jason Schenkel, college professor and psychologist coming on pretty soon. So I think today was just a day of us kind of exploring the different things that happened through the week. Shows that a lot of stuff happened this week. We had incident of the young man with the police. You guys experienced some feminist lashback within the event that you guys put together. It was a variety. Trump's talking crazy to people, and
like always,
you know, like he's just making everybody more scared to be in America.
What's funny to me is how he's gotten steam against Latin people or Mexicans specifically in deporting them. But yet the #1 song on pop radio with all the white people that
Justin
calling
Bieber
in and asking
Daddy Yankee
is the Despacito song.
Yeah, because they love.
The #1
look,
song.
if
You can't have our music.
No,
and deport
motherfucker.
us.
We
you
get.
can't.
Hey, you got to go, goddamn. We gonna take this music and these tacos. Y'all get your ass back across that goddamn border.
No, this is not okay.
And Korea. You remember Korea talk about they got missiles that can hit everybody.
Right. Korea's been saying that, man. Trump is just agitating them.
No,
right
they officially said like, hey, we fuck all y'all up right now if we want to. And amazing how they ain't talk about going to Korea. They don't want to fuck with no real crazy people. Real crazy.
Also, there's this young man in Ghana. He's 18 years old. He produced a search engine, a web browser.
I meant to read about that.
Freaking amazing. It's called Maduco, Mudco, and he put it together well enough that it can actually give Google competition. Like
he'll be dead soon.
Right.
Listen,
that's exactly what I
went to go check it out. I'm like, oh man, this is cool. I want to support this kid. I'll start using this browser instead of Google. And they've blocked it. The government, the United States government has blocked anyone from using it since he got this media press on it saying it's a security risk.
Yep.
Right.
You know,
like the land of opportunity and free. You know what I'm saying? It's crazy how they govern free, like things they don't want you to know about.
They do what the fuck they gonna always do what they want to do. They gonna find a way to do it.
That's why we gotta burn it.
I seen that story, and I didn't know if it's true or not because I was flipping through it. But I'm glad you brought it up that it was true. But I'm like, oh yeah, he gonna be dead in about another week or so.
Yeah, I said the same thing when I heard that. I was like,
or they gonna buy it. They gonna. This is what they do. You can't have a successful business that rivals another big business because what they'll do, they'll try to buy you out first. Yeah, if you refuse, then they'll make it hard for you to, because they have the connects and the power and the money. So they'll make it to where you can't even do business. And then they'll buy you out anyway.
Exactly.
And the interview with the young man, him being 17, he was so, it was like he was
articulate, smart.
He was older.
Yeah.
He, they learn things better there, I think.
Yeah, it's Africa, goddammit. Ain't shit to do over there.
Yeah.
Butt learn, goddamn
Killing
it.
it.
Just give me some books. Let me
Killing it.
run. It's hot outside.
The
Goddamn,
interview
mosquitoes.
was awesome. I went to the site. I was like so excited, and it said, "We have blocked this for security purposes." I'm like, "What? What purpose?"
It is not finna. You must be crazy. I could have told you that. As soon as when I seen the headline, I'm like, I don't know if this is true or not because I ain't read the story.
Yeah.
But I'm like, if this true, ain't gonna happen.
Right,
Ain't
no.
gonna happen.
No, I mean that's too big of a monopoly to like, you know, them dudes are making way too much money for that to let something like that.
Because who
fly
are the
out
two
there.
big? There's three. There's Google,
Yahoo,
Yahoo. Well, Yahoo's kind of failed. Bing.
Bing.
Firefox.
There is none. There's Google. Google
pretty
and
much,
offspring of
There's
Google.
still Explorer too. Internet Explorer.
Yeah. There's-
I actually like the new Internet Explorer. Actually, pretty decent. I might switch back because I use Google Chrome, but I might switch back over to
Google's just
Internet
taking
Explorer.
all our. You can't escape Google though. It's on your cell
Yeah, it's
phones.
everywhere. Google
So-
runs all cell phones.
Yeah, like there's
Every
no way
cell
that you
phone.
can escape it. Well, y'all, we appreciate y'all listening to us. It's been a entertaining, kind of deep, but real show today, I guess. We're gonna be back next weekend. Who do we have next weekend?
Harold James.
We got Harold James. I'm excited about Harold James.
Yeah, me too.
He's actually from Houston. He lived in Houston, anyways. He's lived a lot of different places. He's from Louisiana. Lived in Houston, travels nationally, and he is actually dropping a book about music business and actually how artists can up their game within publishing and understanding like the actual ways the business works. So he is going to be here kind of breaking us off on some great information on how to network and navigate within that business. So yeah, check us out on All Real Radio tonight. We'll be on the radio at 9 o'clock.
9 Houston.
8 o'clock Mountain Time.
Yep.
8 o'clock Mountain Time, 9 o'clock Houston. Will be on the radio tonight. Check us out. WeAreDenver.org. And also check us out, Ghost House Studios on YouTube. There are all sorts of podcasts that are going on that you should definitely be engaged in within We Are Denver. Stay informed, stay knowledgeable, stay connected.
Don't be a bitch ass man. You are ruining the world.
Peace.